All right.
Recording in progress.
Yeah. Get the, we're gonna. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the beginning of Maseches Gittin. Start laughing, eh? So we left off,
The Western.
all right, new Masechta, Maseches Gittin, the blot, we need a little shorter than we've had over the last little while. So, Zakmar, we left. We left off last word, top line of Beis Amud Aleph. Hamevi get Medina Sayam. So one who goes ahead, he's a shaliach. He brings a get from overseas, let's say, to go ahead and deliver it to the wife, soon to be ex-wife. And from overseas, Medina Sayam is any place outside of Israel except for Bavel. He has to say, it was written and signed before me. In other words, I know it was legitimate. The witnesses here are good, right? It was written lishma. It was written, well, I don't want to hint it later on, but it was written by the sofer for this husband for the woman. Even if you go ahead and bring from some of these close border towns, such as Rechem and Cheger, so that is considered to be Medina Sayam, quote unquote, overseas, outside of Israel. Even if you have, right, Ludim Lalud, right, Lud was in Eretz Israel, Kfar Ludim was just outside it, almost like a sister city, but nevertheless, even though they're in close proximity, if the get is being delivered from Kfar Ludim to Lud, then the messenger, the shliach, must say, "B'fanei nachtav." One person, one shliach. The Gemara will ask. No, you don't need to do it. Alright, so he says only from if you bring from Medina Sayam. So we have to explain what the Chachamim mean. And if one goes ahead and he brings from one Medina to another one overseas, then even though it's from overseas to overseas, nevertheless he has to go ahead and once again say that it was written and signed before me, and say fine. Even if it's in one town, right? Like two like sister cities, but they're not necessarily ruled like one. They're sort of splintered, the two towns. So nevertheless, even though they're within close proximity, says Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, they still have to go ahead and say it was written and signed in front of me. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Mi Rechem, the Mizrach, Rechem Kemizrach. So Rechem is a town all the way in the east, right on the eastern side of Israel, and it itself is considered to be east, i.e., Medina Sayam east, and the Ashkelon.
Like
right, Kin's east, right. So the Ashkelon, the Drom, and Ashkelon Kedrom, and then Ashkelon is in the south, and Ashkelon itself is considered to be outside in Medina Sayam, and Me'ako Letzafon, Me'ako Ketzafon. And Akko is the northern border. Anything south of there is Eretz Yisrael, anything north of there is considered to be Medina Sayam, and the Akko is considered to be outside, it's considered to be Medina Sayam. It's like the north. However, Akko Eretz Yisrael, Akko Eretz Yisrael leGittin. When it comes to Gittin. Maybe get there Eretz Yisrael. One who goes out and brings a get in Eretz Yisrael. Right? It doesn't have to say it was written and signed before me. However, if there is a claim of fraud, i.e., the husband says, "Hey, I never wrote this. This is all someone else wrote this. This is fraud. I never gave this get to my wife." Then Yiskayim b'chaisma. Then you go ahead and you confirm there are signatures on the get, right? The two witnesses signed. So they go ahead and they find either those witnesses or people that recognize the signatures of the witnesses, and therefore the document is upheld and the claims of the husband are ignored. Right. That was the initial Mishnah of the Gemara, or of Masechta. So Zakti Gemara, what is the reason? My time, what is the reason why one has to go ahead and say, right, there's no halacha that one has to go ahead and say it was written sealed in front of me. The halacha is the man has to go ahead and give his wife a get. It has to written lishma, as we'll soon see, because of law, right? So he has to have intentions for her, and then and that's all that's required. So my time, what's the reason why all of a sudden this agent has to go ahead and say, oh, it was written and signed in front of me? So Rabbi Omar Lefi She'ein Bekin Lishma. Because when you go to Medina Siyam, they is a land full of Amei Aretz, right? People are not learned and they might not know different halachas. Maybe they're going to use a use get, which has similar names, or they use something. So we don't know the nature of this document. But if a person says, "Hey, this was written and signed in front of me by these witnesses," in other words, for this purpose, then we believe him. So that is the reason, according to Rabbah. And Rabbah Amar Lefi Shein Eidim Mitzayin L'Kaim. And Rabbah says, because let's say there are claims of fraud, so we need the signature. We need to go ahead and confirm the signatures. Now, in Medina Siyam, there were not caravans that were easily accessible for one to another, especially from Medina Siyam to Eretz Yisrael. They weren't, so they wouldn't be able to get these people, right? They didn't have. Right, they didn't have what's it called? DocuSign, right? They didn't have any of that. We can go ahead and confirm it, right? They had to go ahead and find it. They didn't. It wasn't common caravan. So if there was a claim, they usually wouldn't be able to go ahead and uphold the document. So therefore, in order to prevent that from occurring, let's go ahead and because we won't be able to find the witnesses later, let's go ahead and find the witnesses now. Or confirm the witnesses now, or at least have him say, I saw the witnesses and saw it written for her. So my Benayu, what is the difference between Rabbah and Rava? I mean, Rabbah says it has to be Lishma, and Rava says because we need to, we won't be able to find the witnesses. So Ika Benayu, so there's three differences. The first one is Dasubei Trade. If two people come and they are the messengers, right? So they are the shlichim. So therefore, according to Rava, so I have witnesses, right? I don't need to go ahead and find the witnesses. We have two witnesses over here who are saying that they brought the get. So obviously they're testifying to the validity of the debt, to the get. According to Rabbah, we don't know if it was written lishma if there's two of them. So therefore, we need to go ahead and if two witnesses bring it, they have to say that it was written and signed in front of them, so we know that it was done lishma. Inami or Medina Eretz Yisrael. So let's say two different locations in Eretz Yisrael. So if it was written in Eretz Yisrael, we know it was lishma. So according to Rabbah, you really wouldn't need to go ahead and have the agent say, right, that it was written and signed in front of me because we know it was lishma. But according to Rabbah, right, there might not be ways to to get the witnesses in one area to another area. So therefore, you should go ahead and have to say it. Or Inami or Ba'isa Medina Siyam within the same nation in Medina Siyam. According to Rabbah, it's not lishma. So it's not lishma. So therefore, you have to go ahead and say it was written and signed in front of you. But according to Rava, it's in the local town. So therefore, if there is a claim against it, we'll just go ahead and find those witnesses. So therefore, we don't need to go ahead and say it was written and signed in front of me. So I asked, according to Rava, who says that they're not bucky. And now we basically need for this agent to go ahead and testify about the validity of the document. Remember, according to Rava, it's just to prevent further claims against this shtar. But according to Rabbah, right, it's basically to say that this shtar, this get, is valid. So there should be two witnesses, or two shlichim, right? Not just one, right? Like Alan was pointing out. Right, they buy trade. Maybe they have a call. Right, it shouldn't be like any other time we have a person testify. Right, in the Torah. Right, you have two witnesses. You can't have one person in a court case. You need two witnesses. So over here, you're testifying about the document. You should be required to have two witnesses. So the Gemara answers, right? So over here, where we're worried about the isser of her being an Eish. So one person goes ahead and can testify. That she's not an Eish. Therefore, it comes to Yisur, we believe one. It's a concept, right? Now, so such as cases by shechita, a person says this meat is kosher, I shechted properly, so we trust that agent or we trust the other person. When it comes to meiser, trumas meiser, we believe one person. So what it says, yes, you're right. Is normally good. When you have a piece of meat, and the question is this meat? Is it from forbidden fats, or is this part of the permitted meat? Because over there was not a known isser. This piece of meat was not known to be usser, and it's going to matter it. In this case, is chazik isura. Over here, we know she's usser to other men. She's an Eishes Ish, she's a married woman. So she has a chazaka of being usser. So therefore, in this case, so therefore, this is a matter of erba. In order to go ahead and be mat to her, it's not a case of where it's status quo and you're just one making her kosher to others. Rather, you have to basically uproot the known chazaka of her being forbidden because she's an erba to everybody else because she's a married woman. And therefore, you can't have a matter regarding erva of less than 2. So back to the drawing board. How do we allow one agent, one shaliach, to go ahead and say it was written and signed in front of me in Medina Sayyam, and everything is good, and now she's a permitted woman who marries whoever she wants? So the Gemara answers. So really, really, majority, who is the one who's writing Gidder? It's not your everyday person, right? We're not talking about Shuvas and Meisos for every farmer or whatever it is. Whoever has a field has to go ahead and do the lacha, right? We're talking about a case of the Seifrim. The Seifrim in general, they're the ones who write the Gidder. There's 3 Seifrim in town. They know the halachas. So in general, they know that it has to be lishma. They can't just use a found document with coincidentally the same names in the same town. Rather, it has to be lishma. So therefore, since it's Rabbi Kina and even in other cases, he's chayshish for a mute, such as what a case. Let's say there's one has to do a chalitza. Right, or ibum, so we don't allow a katan to do it because maybe the person's a sris, maybe the person will never grow up to be a gadol. So we're chayshish for minority, for small percentages. But even in this case, according to a mayor who's normally concerned about a minority, right? The regular cipher is learned enough that it knows it has to be lishma. And Rabbanu the Yitzrich. And really, it's the Rabbanans, Chazal, right? It's a takana that just to be extra safe, right? Let's go have, really don't need anything. It's lishma. So why do you need one? Just in case, right? The husband comes and says, hey, maybe there was a document that was found with the same name as the husband's name, the wife's name, and the town's name. And therefore, we want to go ahead and top of the page of Gimel Aleph, we want to go ahead and prevent because of the concern of the woman becomes an aguna, right? In other words, let's say it's unknown, there's not a good get, so she's still a married woman, and the husband is nowhere to be found. So therefore, we want to prevent that. So to prevent that, let's get the guy in advance to say, "Hey, this was written lishma, and it was not found." It's just a couple more lines for Rabbanim. So, hi, kulahu, chumru. What do you mean? Rabbanan, it's a kula, it's a chumra. Because if you have 2, lo asi bal ma'arer upasule. Chad asi bal ma'arer upasule. If you have one person, so then the husband could come and argue, and it's 1 versus 1. Now we don't know if it's a good get. She's not married. But if we require 2, right, then the husband will never go ahead and come and be ma'arer. So it seems like you're making a kula because you're opening the door for husband to come and argue with the one witness. So the Gemara answers, no. How many people does this guy have to go ahead and deliver the get in front of b'fnei beis, b'fnei gimel? One opinion says in front of 2 people, other people say in front of 3 people. Since this messenger has to go ahead and present the get in front of multiple people, therefore, you're not going to have a case of 1 versus 1 because the husband knows that this get was already presented to the woman, right, in front of multiple people, basically creating like Dianus or Adus in that case. So therefore, the messenger knows that which he was saying was legit because he has to do it in front of others, and therefore the husband will now will not come along and say, hey, this get is mezuyaf, this get is a forge or not a good get, and therefore the woman will not become a woman who's neguna in doubt. All right, we'll stop here. Yishkayach, everybody.